Alrighty, it's that time again. As you can see, mastering 3D printing, boost your Mac with Creality Print or Orca Slicer. That is the question. Hey everybody, I'm Steve here from The Varied Life. Do 3D printing, resin, miniature painting. I'm also an American expat that's retired here in Korea. And today we're bringing to you that question right there. Which is better? If you have a Mac, is it Creality Print because we have the K2 Plus, or is it Orca Slicer? This is very interesting because maybe this is only particular to me, but what I found out is Creality Print hasn't been as cracked up as it is said to be. And maybe that's because I have a Mac. I had some problems, and we've talked about this before in the past, where Creality Print is a little lackluster when it comes to updating their Mac information. So with that, some of the examples are that the program freezes. I'll have to force quit when I close the program. It'll have to reopen. Another thing that happens is, like, if I import a model and there's some problems with it, usually with a Windows-based Creality Print, it'll come up and it'll say, fix it. Well, the Mac version does not have the fix function that the Windows version does, and even though Creality says that they're going to fix it, it hasn't been fixed and it's been a while. So yeah, a day late and a dollar short. And I've been seeing some very concerning things with my prints. And the last video, we went over and showed where I updated Creality Print to the 32.03, whatever the last four numbers was, and how I got the worst benchies ever with the K2 Plus. And that is the only thing that changed. Nothing else had changed. As a matter of fact, I had calibrated filament profile for that benchy, and it was the worst benchy. It was the worst print that I had in doing that part. Excuse me. So with that, I decided to take a look at Orca Slicer, because a lot of people rave about Orca Slicer. Specifically, people who run Macs say that it's better than Creality Print. And so I was like, hey, I'm getting all these problems with Creality Print. Got to force quit and all those things, even without updating to the newest Creality Print. So I said, let's do a test and we'll find out, especially in light of the last problems that we've had with the print and the benchy. That was the worst print and the worst benchy that I've ever had on the K2 Plus. So with that being said, what we're going to end up doing, let me check something real quick here. I think I want to make sure that my audio is at 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we're good. One, 2, 3. Yep, I think we're good. Okay, so with that being said, let's just dive right into it. And what we ended up doing was actually going through, and we printed a couple of things, and we're going to go through a screen share to show you the differences, at least on my Mac. Maybe it's just my Mac that's cursed. Mac Mini, it ends up, it's a Mac Mini, it ends up that it's a 2023. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and we'll pull up some of the information on this and kind of show you where we're coming from. So, boom, and we'll drag this up in here. And there you can see my Mac. So it's an Apple M2 Pro, 32 gig of RAM. So we're not doing anything crazy. It's not like this is a 5 or a 10-year-old computer. It is Sequoia 15.6.1, which is the most up-to-date version. And I run some pretty intensive programs. I run Final Cut Pro 10 on there. I'll do multicam clips, the whole 9 yards, tons of video. It never has any problems. But with Creality Print, I do. So I don't have anything open except for this recording software, which is Ecamm Live. And that's what we've got. So let's jump into and show you some of the results that we got. And you can be the judge. You tell me on which one is better. Creality Print actually has the upper hand because the filament is calibrated to Creality Print. The Orca Slicer that I ended up using It's using the stock PLA profile. So keep that in mind. We haven't done nothing to Orca. We just put the part in there, all the settings are the same, and boom, it ends up, what did we get? Well, let's just jump right in and see what we got here. Okay, so here is the tale of two benchies. And the one on top that you can end up seeing there is the Creality print. And this was after the most horrible benchy that I got, and going back to the previous version of Creality print. But you can still see like the lettering on the bottom of the benchy is, that is really low. That is really rough. It's not looking good. We see in the bow, the house or the cabin on the top there, we see how, yeah, there's some deformation there. It just doesn't look crisp and clean. If we go down to the one on the bottom, the OG, which is the Orca slicer, the original gangster, we see the lettering on the bottom of the benchy is definitely way better. And even though on the bow we see a little bit of deformation on there on the bow, the rest of it is extremely clean compared to the one up top. Now the one up top is Creality print, and we got a lot of stringing on there, which is really, really odd. So yeah, that's what we end up having there. And I was just very interested in seeing the difference between these two. So out of these two, the one up top is Creality print, the one on the bottom is Orca slicer, and for me, I would say overall, I would say Orca slicer, it's a little rough because the one on the top around that arch that we have up there that's really deformed, and it's just not as crisp and clean as the Orca slicer one, but on the bow of the Orca slicer one, we do have that. So I'm going to have to give this a tie, but maybe not. I would say it's a tie because the lettering on the bottom of the Creality print benchy is really rough, but the one on the bottom is really clear. And since we have the bow on the Orca slicer is a little rough, but on the Creality print, it comes out okay. I'm going to have to call this a tie. So put it in the comment section of which one you think is better. I'm going to call this a tie. But then we get up here, and this is where we get we see a lot of differences. The regular benchy that we just saw was minor differences. This is the big one. So when we take a look at this, which one looks better? The one on the left or the one on the right? Okay. If we see the one on the left, and what we'll do is we'll just kind of blow this up here and make it so. And what we end up seeing is that we got some crisp lines. We've got, besides the little tiny hair there, everything looks pretty good. And even that bow on the arch on the cabin ends up being pretty good. But when we go over to this one here, whoa, notice how we've got some serious problems. First of all, if we look at the hole in the front and the hole in the front on this one on the right, yeah, it looks really rough on the one on the right. And then when we look inside the cabin, we can see that the floor does not meet the wall of that, and that's problematic. You see that deformation in there. We actually see holes in where the floor and the wall meet together on the one on the right there. And let me make this like really big. So there you can end up seeing it. It is right there. And we've got a little black on there, but that's because there was some filament that was on the sock and that came off. But yeah, it looks a little rough to me. That looks a little rough. And this was even when we did the infill overlap setting at 60%, at 60. Usually the default is 30, but I wanted to try to close that up. In the past, I would set it to 60 and that would not be a problem, but in this case it is. So yeah, this one is the Creality print. Same filament, same settings, except for, I increased the infill overlap and it didn't really fix it much. We go over here, and this is the Orca slicer, and down in that area where the floor meets that wall inside the cabin, we don't have those holes. We actually see it where the floor and the wall meet together, and there's a good enough overlap there that we don't have any holes. And again, it's nice, it's crisp, it's clean. This is definitely way better than the Creality print one. So when we take a look at these, definitely I would have to say that the one on the left, which is the Orca slicer with a standard PLA profile, again, this hasn't even been calibrated, using Creality Hyper PLA, I got to give it to Orca slicer. I got to give it to Orca slicer, because the one on the right is Orca slicer, and it's rough. It is really rough. And those holes in the bottom there, you know, inside the cabin where the floor and the wall come up, you know, by the wheelhouse, if the infill overlap was set to 30, which is the default, these holes are worse. So, yeah, there's that. So, I mean, what does it look like? To me, it looks like Orca slicer is the clear winner, the one on the left. Here's the back, and we have Orca slicer on the left. We have Creality print on the right, and on the right, you'll notice that there's a lot of stringing on here. And the back of the boat, on that right-hand side of the right boat, it looks like, you know, Jaws came up and took a chunk out of that. Talk about rough right there. And then we look at the circle, that window of the back, and compare that to the one on the right. And the clear winner is the one on the right, which is Orca slicer. On the back of the boat, we don't have that gnarled, messed up look like we do with the one on the right. The hole for the two holes on the bottom of the benchies, I would have to say the one on the left definitely looks better than the one on the right. So as we look at some of this stuff, and even if we blow this up some more, and you can see the lines on how much more crisp and clean these are. Let's see if we can get that. With the one on the left, which is Orca slicer, versus the Creality print. And again, this is after using Creality print with the new Creality print upgrade. It was horrible. The benchy was even worse. Matter of fact, you know, this was after I went back to the previous Creality print and used calibrated filament in the Creality print, used that profile, and then the one on the left is Orca slicer with just standard PLA profile. So yeah, that was pretty rough. And for those of you who are wondering about the benchy with the new Creality print, let me do a little bit of correction here so we can kind of get rid of this. And this was the worst benchy I had ever had, and that was with, can you believe that? That over there is the worst benchy that I have ever had, and that was with the new Creality print software, the 3.2.03, the last four numbers on that. That is a horrible, disgusting benchy. And look down inside the cabin. Remember how I was talking about the holes there? Yeah, that is just downright ugly. And I shut down the machine. You know, I did the Creality print. I run a full calibration on it, you know, because you're getting a new software upgrade. So, but yeah, it just got to be bad. It was really, really bad. So, Zombie Hunter, hey, yeah, I know, shocking. And it comes to the place of where, is it just my Mac Mini, my 2023 Mac Mini, that, you know, before I've had better benchies with this, with the Creality print, and now for some reason going from the new Creality print to the old Creality print, it just ended up that this was horrible. It was really a rough print. So let me see if I can get a little bit more light. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it was pretty shocking to say the least. I was not impressed at all with that version. And again, that was the worst benchy I have ever had. And that was with calibrated filament. So obviously I went back to the previous version. Let's take a look at some other prints there, because again, the one on the left is Orca slicer. The one on the right is Creality print. And we see a lot of stringing, whereas we don't see it on the Orca slicer with the standard profile. This really comes down to the importance. We're not talking about just printing benches. We're talking about making products, printing out models, and getting good results. And we just weren't getting it with Creality Print, even the previous version. So I'm not even going to show the one. Well, I guess I can show the one. I can pull it out of the trash. This is going to be horrendous. Let's go back and we'll show you. Let's move this out of the way. We'll move that there. And what you can end up seeing, look how horrible that is. Those are actual holes. Look at that. That is insane. That is the worst model I have ever printed. And that was with the brand new Creality Print for Mac, it should be added. And, you know, we got the same thing on this side. I mean, look at that. That is just disgusting. How does Creality even test these things on Mac? Or maybe it's just mine? I don't know. Here's another good, not good, but it ends up, look at that there. That is just horrible. That is not acceptable at all. That is rough. And even on that part there, you can see where we can see into the model itself. And again, it's just, there it is. That is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So this was, it is, Zombie, you hit the nail on the head. It is really horrible. It is horrible, horrible. I mean, and it's not really sturdy. I use the same percentage of infill, and because like the walls and that top surface didn't join together with the walls, yeah, it just kind of falls apart. This was with the new Creality Print on my Mac, so that going in the trash. Yeah, pretty horrible stuff. Let's go back and I'll show you, since we went back to the previous Creality Print, that's going to be the one on the left, and the one on the right is Orca Slicer with the standard PLA profile. Hyper PLA from Creality, but just standard profile. By the way, Orca does not have a profile for Creality Hyper PLA. It's just PLA, standard profile. 0.2 layer height with a 0.04 nozzle. So, Zombie's got the question that says, have you printed anything after that on the printer? Yeah, that's what we're going through now, is going back to the previous Creality Print, which I had good prints on, and we're still not getting, it was better, but we're still not getting what we had even prior to that. So something is going wrong with either my Mac or Creality Print Mac software as a whole is just not cutting it, and there's some problems there. So yeah, I reinstalled everything, restarted, recalibrated the whole 9 yards. As we see this picture here, you can see the Creality Print on the left, the Orca Slicer on the right, and as we get this a little bit bigger, you can automatically see some of the problems already. So look at that. Look at the divots on the one on the right, or the left, which is Creality Print. The one on the right is Orca Slicer. Boom, that looks really, really solid. But that bottom edge where those dovetail joints are on the left side, which is Creality Print, that's pretty fugly as well. So yeah, and then as we just get rid of that, we've got a close-up view of this, and yeah, I mean, tell me, which is better? I'm going to take a swig. You put which is better in the comments section and smash that like button. Is it Orca Slicer or Creality Print? I'm going to have to go with Orca Slicer. Absolutely insane. And you can look at the details on that. Let's see if we can blow this up even more. You know, look at that. On the one that's closest to you is Creality Print, and that is just fugly. The one on the right, it's definitely a lot better. We've got cleaner lines. We don't have like that battle-scarred, whatever that is, on the Creality print one. And again, remember, this is when I reinstalled the program. I redid the calibration. It's just, wow, it's rough. So yeah, there's that. And then here is the last picture that we have, and the one on the bottom is Creality print, and we still have that separation where that layer there isn't even attaching itself to the walls. We can actually see into that overhang. That was an overhang that was being supported, but we have those massive holes there. But compared to the Orca slicer one, which is definitely a lot better, you know, we've got a better fit and finish on that than compared to the Creality print one. But yeah, this is where, yeah. Sure, you haven't got a clog in the nozzle. I put a new nozzle on the Micro Swiss, and I ran filament through it, cleaned everything out. Yeah, so I don't think it's a clog, unless it was clogged. But what are the odds of it having a clog and then doing the same thing, you know, for a model part, a benchy, and then another model part, but then I don't get the same problems when you're using Orca slicer and the benchy turns out really good? I don't know. And even then, here's the interesting thing, is that the Orca slicer one, I wasn't using calibrated filament in there. It's just the Creality Hyper PLA white, which should have been running at 255, or what was it? It's 5 degrees hotter for the nozzle and the bed than what is recommended by Creality. Because when I dialed that in and I did all the calibrations, that's what came out and gave me better prints. So the Creality one is actually using the the calibrated filament, and that just looked really, really bad. Zombie Hunter comes up and says maybe something was in the hot end. Yeah, that's a possibility. I mean, that's a possibility. But with the benchy, I don't know. It's, you know, one benchy off a Creality print, and then the benchy following that with Orca slicer, and we got vastly different. So I'm not saying that the possibility is not there, that it could be a clog type issue, or I don't know, maybe some pixie dust got into the nozzle or whatever. I'm not sure. But I'm going to heat that baby up again. But right now, just based off of this right here, man, and running on my Mac, definitely it ends up that the Orca slicer works. And like I said prior to you getting on here, with the Creality print on my Mac anyway, the problems that I would end up having with that is that I would shut down the program, it wouldn't shut down, it would disappear from the screen, but down on the menu bar down at the base of my monitor, it's still open. So I'd have to go down there, right click, and it would have to force quit. And then it pops up with the error screen and send a report and all that stuff. That has happened. I mean, that's kind of a normal thing for me. I've just gotten used to that. And it's like, well, it's a Mac, and I reported it to Creality, and they're like, yeah, we're working on the Mac side of the house. Zombie Hunter says, I remember once I had a clog, cleaned the whole thing out and changed the nozzle. It was still coming out under extruded, played with it for another 30 minutes. Yeah, maybe that's it. I don't know. I think what I'm going to end up doing is, that is a possibility. There is a variable in that. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to heat up that hot end like nobody's business. And I'm going to use that little punch tool thing to push down anything that's in there and just kind of force the filament through there and really make sure that everything's coming out. But yeah. Zombie Hunter says, then I said stuff it and cleaned the hot end and changed the nozzle again. Then it worked. First time I didn't clean it out properly. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot again. But the interesting point was that I put on a brand new nozzle. So just kind of odd. And that was after I cleaned out the extruder, and I had the problem before with the clog. And so, yeah, I was getting good prints. I was getting excellent prints because what I ended up printing was, like the stuff like this, which had some great fit and finish, nothing at all that looked like that, which is weird. The same thing with the minimal BS teleprompter here. Again, we got great fit and finish on here. That was just incredible. And I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'll go through and I'll clean it again. I'll check out the extruder. I'll tear everything apart and take a look at that. But yeah, I even replaced the extruder cover because the previous one had all the problems and the teeth broke where the PTFE tube goes into that connector on the extruder. So what I ended up doing is contacting Creality, and they're sending me out a brand new one because it's still under warranty. But yeah, it's entirely possible. Yeah, might be something I missed, something the first time. That is entirely true. It could be. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I was just really interested in this and seeing how we definitely got better results with Orca Slicer versus the Creality print. And question is, do you have a spare hot end? Yes. Well, I just put in the new hot end. So there's that. And I was getting good prints with the other hot end, but I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Do I have a spare one? I might have one. I'm not sure. And also, I'm using a micro Swiss hot end with the K2 Plus. So, and that thing has just been churning out quality parts like nobody's business. But after that Creality print upgrade, and then that just going horribly wrong, and then going back to the previous version of Creality print, and then I'm getting way better results with Orca Slicer versus this. I mean, that's, I just, yeah, it could be a problem. I don't know. Yeah, there's an idea. Maybe put the old one in and see what happens. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing that. Put the old one in. I'll clean them both out and see what happens. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see the differences that I've been getting, and with that, and it just kind of like, wow. I've did talk and chat with some other people online talking about how Mac and Creality print is a little half step behind, the Windows version of Creality print. Like talking with Ferrithus, you've ran into him. He's been on the channel before, chatting and talking and commenting. He has Windows and he doesn't have any problems. So I've continued to have problems with Creality print, and I've got a Mac. So I'm seriously, two things I'm going to do. I'm going to go over that hot end issue, and I'm going to clean those things out like nobody's business. I'm going to get the micro magnifying glass out and, really go over every little piece of both of those. And we'll do that again. And then we will run that and see what happens, and do another print with Creality print, and then another print with Orca, and we see what happens. But other than that, I don't know. Here's Zombie says, to me it sounds more like a printer problem than a slicer problem. But it's just odd that this happened after. Don't put on the old nozzles. Yeah, that's a good idea, because that would be inducing another variable. But yeah, it's just weird. I don't think it's a machine problem, because there wasn't a machine problem before. And again, I ran full calibration, the whole 9 yards, everything was good to go, unless there's something untoward that hasn't reared its ugly head, that hasn't thrown an error code. And I even went so far as going into fluid, excuse me, going into fluid and seeing if there's anything out of the ordinary that popped up on the fluid, and I haven't noticed anything. So I'm not a fluid professional, but I know some things to look for, and it's like, I don't see anything different. So, hot end stays hot, nozzle stays hot, this or that. We're not getting this wild variance between, nozzle temperatures or bed temperatures or anything like that. Adhesion is great on the plate, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. But more testing needs to be done. That's for sure. So, yeah. But the interesting thing, and that's a question, Zombie, do you run Mac or do you run Windows on yours? And I'd be kind of interested in knowing that. The people that I have chatted with online on different sites and stuff have told me that the majority of them run Windows and they don't have any problems. So the one variable is I have a Mac and I've always had problems with Creality print. So Zombie says, sounds like something that's still in the hot end or nozzle to me because it looks like under extruding. And Zombie's rocking Windows. So, yeah, we're going to go through the extruder. We're going to go through the nozzle. We're going to clean that out and go balls to the wall in regards to inspecting all that stuff to see what goes on. And we're gonna heat that nozzle up. We're going to clean that out like nobody's business, and then we'll rerun the test and we'll see what happens. But yeah, those pictures were just like, wow. I mean, what do you do with that? That was just between one and the other. That is absolutely crazy. So like I said, well, we ended up there. So there is the Creality print one. And then we followed that up with doing, boom, the Orca slicer one. And we didn't have any of those problems. So maybe something dislodged after the bad benchy. I don't know. We could find out as I could run a benchy again on Creality print and see what happens. Did I change the tube? The PTF tube going on the chain to the extruder head? No. I haven't done that. But I could, and I might as well since it's down anyway. If I'm going to redo everything, and I haven't, it does have some wear on the outside of where that tube goes through those holes on the cable chain on that head. So I definitely got some better PTFE tube, so I could do that as well. So since I'm going to be doing it, might as well replace that as well. That's a good idea. Thank you. But yeah, the differences between those two were just horrible. And again, the world's worst benchy was this one with the Creality print. I mean, look at that. That is just horrible. That's like Halloween horrible. That's like somebody made that to look like that. So yeah, it was obviously a problem. And again, the piece that I showed you for the ugly one was just oh so ugly. Oh so ugly. Here's another one. That was that right there. Look at how ugly that is. That is absolutely ugly. Oh, here's another picture of that. Look at that. Ugly to the core. It's like it fell down the ugly tree and hit every branch. That is absolutely crazy. But then on this area here, it was actually okay. So I don't know. It's just like, I was like, maybe that's a clog. But when I get clogs, I get thrown error codes, and it's the machine says, "Hey, fix this possible clog, blah blah blah." Wiki page, QR code, go do it. And I've been able to fix all these things. Tear apart the extruder, everything, pull the gears out, fine tooth comb, the whole 9 yards, clean out the nozzle, boom, and it's good to go. So I'm pretty confident in my ability to clean all that stuff up. Yeah, it looks like it's under extruding, 100%. But that is like so ugly. Oh, that is just so ugly. It just, what do you do? So anyway, we're going to go back and we're going to change that. We're going to work on that. We're going to heat that nozzle up big time. We're going to use that tool. We're going to force it out. We're going to do everything we can. And yeah, we're just going to rock it and see what happens. I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. So that's what we got going on. And yeah, when you get a part like that, and you know, especially the ugly part that I showed you, you know, your reaction is this right here. It just no. Wait. Yeah, that's what you end up getting. And this was on the. I was just about, you know, I printed out that one part that we have here because I'm working on another project. And this was the part here. But I mean, I just printed this out. And yeah, it's pretty darn good, you know. The only lines that I get on here, that I get on that you might see on the side is because of it's the actual model itself. Because in Tinkercad, it ends up, I had some places where I joined and it wasn't able to, you know, mesh 100% when I joined the two pieces together, so we got some lines in here. But it's right at those areas where I had cut and joined things together. So I know that's a Tinkercad thing. It's not a printing thing. So, did you see the other comment I said? Let's see. I do that too. Because if that tightens up, it can restrict the flow of filament into the hot end too, I found. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, the joys of 3D printing, yeah. And the interesting thing is, you know, the Orca slicer, this, Benchy, turned out really good. So I'm wondering if I shouldn't just print another Benchy and Orca slicer and see what happens, you know. I don't know. We'll see. Stands to reason. But maybe the clog cleared on its own. Maybe there was some imperfection in the filament. That's entirely possible. I mean, it's not like, you know, they're mass producing that stuff like nobody's business and selling it, but it's Creality Hyper PLA. But it doesn't mean it's immune to having defects. I mean, everything has defects. Anything that's man-made has defects. I am full of defects. I'm proof of that right there. So, yeah, we're going to be going through this and checking that all out. And we'll see what happens, and we'll give another update on that. But the other thing I'm thinking about doing is possibly getting a Windows laptop because of the problems that Creality has with updating the Mac versions of their software, of Creality Print. It's always like a day late and a dollar short. There's some features there like fixing models when you import them, and it says, hey, your model has an error, pops up in red and says, hey, you need to fix this, but it's only in the Windows version, not the Mac version. And it's like, I've contacted Creality and said, hey, when is this going to get fixed? And it's like, oh, we're working on it. Well, that's been a long time now, and it's still nothing has come about on that. They just keep updating, and I don't know. Could be a combination of those things. But I think I'm going to print out another Benchy on Orca slicer. Matter of fact, that's what I'll end up doing. So we'll print out another one of those. Orca slicer, because the model turned out really good. And we'll keep all the settings the same. So let's see. Add a 3D Benchy. And boom, we've got Mr. 3D Benchy there. We'll do it again in Hyper PLA white using the generic Creality PLA high speed, because that's what we used before. So we're going to continue with that. So that's set. Everything is set up. We have got that. I think we're good to go. And the only problem I have is that I wasn't able to get this to connect wirelessly to my printer. So when I slice the plate, let me make sure I've got, yeah, 0.2 for layer height. Everything else is stock. We're good to go. Arachne for walls, inner outer for wall printing order. And let's see, we go for strength, 2 wall loops, 5 top shell layers, top shell thickness 0.8, bottom shell layers of 3, 5% sparse infill density, so we got that going on. And let's see. Can you try printing the benchy first? Won't hurt. Yep. We're going to do the benchy here. Do crosshatch. That's the default for the benchy on Orca Slicer. I mean, I could go to gyroid or whatever, but I'll just leave it at crosshatch. That seemed to work out pretty good. And everything else is good. Multi-material, others, that don't need any supports. Speed, blah, blah, blah. Okay, overhang speed 60. I think we're good to go on that. I don't need to change anything there. Supports, we don't need supports, so we're going to turn that off. And we will slice this plate up. In case you want to take a look at that, there is the benchy that we're going to be doing. 9.89 grams. We're looking at 29 minutes, so it should be, oh, you're looking at a picture. There we go. Sorry about that. You all are staring at a picture of something that's in the way. I can be frustrating. I totally get it. So with that, if we go to print and upload and print, and the thing is, even though this is connected, like if we test that, yeah, it's connected, it's good to go, we're on that, okay, blah. But for some reason it doesn't connect up and print. So I'm gonna have to do this off of, I think, well, let me see. 3D Benchy, 2952. If we just upload it, it said that it uploaded 219.106, so that's the correct IP address that we have there. Let me run into the other room and we'll see what happens. Let me see if it's doing anything. Nope, not yet. So we will go back and do it old school. Can't get it in the hole. Finally got it in the hole. Don't you hate that problem? You can't find a hole. Export G-code file, and we will bring this into that, and we will do 3D Benchy. This will be our third benchy, so we'll do third 3D benchy. We'll save that. Boom, bam, awesome. It goes quick and fast. We'll eject that, and we'll take this old school, we'll run it over the printer, and as soon as this pops out and ejects, we'll start running this, and we'll see what happens. So, yeah, there we go. Off and running. I'll be right back. Creality. So we're off and running on that. That's going to take a while because I'm doing the calibration, and that's what I did with the other ones. And you know, the little calibration thing that it does on the left side and then on the right side, those came out fine. And even when the extruder was extruding filament in the back, you know, when it poops out the back, and you can see it's doing that little thing as it poops, didn't look like there was a clog because it looked like we're getting the same thickness of poo, I don't know how else to put it, as we were getting before. So, but I didn't see the poo when we had that horrible benchy. So I don't know. There's a possibility it could still be a clog. So we'll see what happens with that. So anyway, yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff. What can you do? But it'll be interesting to see the condition of the benchy when we get this after this prints out in, what, 29 minutes and something. And the interesting thing is if we open up our K2 Plus, we'll be able to get the live broadcast. And we can do a little magic here, a little overlay. Screen share overlay. We'll do like that. Yeah, the joys of 3D printing. Gotta love it. So this is gonna run through, but it's gonna do that whole calibration thing, but we'll just kind of set it like that. But yeah, like Zombie said, the joys of 3D printing. Bonus! I mean, fun stuff. So what do you do? It is what it is. Yeah, but other than that, I love 3D printing. The other project that I'm working on, which was this piece here, is part of a project, and it's not something that I made up. It ends up, there is, and I want to go over this, if we can take a look at that. Where is that? No, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. And that's not it. What was it? I can't remember. It was a, no, that's not it. It was a mechanical switch for the K2 Plus. Or not the K2 Plus, but for Bamboo. Let me see if I can find it. No, that's not it. That's not it. Seriously? I can't find it. Dang it. But anyway, I guess what I could end up doing is this. Because I do have it as... Yeah, let's go ahead and just do this. Oh, here it is. I found it. So this is on Maker World. So I want to show you this stuff here. So on Maker World, this is the front power switch extender with lock and riser for the Bamboo X1, the P1, and then this guy also made up the same thing for the H2D and the H2S, because apparently all of those are kind of a thing. And basically what this ends up doing is you have these pieces, and the piece in the back there, that is like a switch, a mechanical lever that will hit the on-off switch on your printer in the back, so you don't have to do the reach around, and you could actually just do it from the front. And oh, here's the video. Yeah, Take a look at this.
How do you turn on or off the printer? Like me reaching over the table and around your device? Now there is a solution. Check out my latest creation, Power Switch Extender. Here are the steps to make it. Print it, click together the bottom part, starting from one end. Click together the upper part. Align the hole and insert the screw, using the narrow object to help guide it. Check that everything moves smoothly. Screw in the small button bump. Add the back button presser, making sure the round part faces the other end. Okay, let's add it to your printer. Unplug the power cord. Set the power button to the on position. Lift the right side of the printer up and slide the power switch extender under the printer. Align it until both printer legs fit into the holes. Try it. If you want, print and install the on-off signs with double-sided tape. Have a great time printing.
That is genius. That is genius. So when he posted this guy, Jackadels, when he posted that on Facebook, I saw that and I was like, hey, that is incredible. I want to check that out. And so what I ended up doing is leaving a comment. And I said, hey, that'd be awesome if you could do one for the K2 Plus. And he's like, would love to do it, but he doesn't have a K2 Plus because he's a bamboo guy. So I was like, oh, dejected. But then I figured, download the STL files. And what I ended up doing is this right here. So I downloaded those files. These aren't the files there. Those are just kind of like some reference measuring sticks. I use measuring sticks instead of like rulers. So yeah, it's like I said, I told you I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm more like a spork. I'm not a spoon, not a knife, maybe a fork or a spork. I'm somewhere around spork and fork level. Sometimes I'm sharp. But yeah, so what I ended up doing is he had, of course, the dimensions of the feet for the P1 or the H2D or the H2S or whatever it is, H2C, whatever he's got those for. The dimensions and the lengths of these pieces are a little bit different. So what I ended up doing is just going through, and it was like, okay, well, this isn't really going to, help me out. But what I can do, and I lined all this up so it was perfect, and I took the measurements from that circle and got the diameters of those, and then I measured the feet on the K2 Plus, and I was like, hey, it's a little off. And then the distance between the two, of course, is a little off, but I added some more material onto, you can see how that's not like perfectly round like his side is, but I added material there. I filled in the hole, and then what I ended up doing is getting the diameter of the feet on the K2 Plus, did some measurements, plugged those in, and we'll see what happens. So with that, it should end up, and because of the K2 Plus has the power switch on the left side versus the bamboo, which is on the right side, I had to mirror everything. So that was pretty easy to do. So what'll end up happening, and then I had to change some of the measurements on this. So if we zoom into here, yeah, there's definitely a big difference on here because we had to extend it up more, and then, yeah, we had to extend it up more is basically what it came down to. So this is the model that I was planning on doing, and to see if I could get this thing to work. So yeah, there's the original one there, and you can definitely tell the difference if we put those side by side. So yeah, a little bit different, K2 Plus a little bit higher up for the cord and to give room for the cord, and of course the power switch would be up here versus the bamboo. So if we look at that and how we have that there. So yeah, a little bit of difference, So we'll see what happens, and that's the whole story of this piece here. So when I printed that out and it came out horrible, I was like, Oh, that's horrible. So yeah, that's what we got going on. So anyway, yeah, it definitely looks cool. Definitely looks cool. I like it. This is definitely something that I would want to continue to take a look at. So hopefully it'll end up working. I don't know. Worst case scenario, I use up the little remnants of filament on the spools that I have, where you just have a little bit left. So I'm going to be doing some spool changing with this and getting rid of all my little partial rolls left over. I don't care what color it is because it's underneath, and that's the way it'll be. So, and we're still waiting on this thing. So that's going to take a while. But yeah, that's the exciting news that we have for the K2 Plus. So either, and maybe it's a combination of all three. Maybe it's because it's a Mac. Maybe it's because it's a clog. And like you said, Zombie was like, it's under extruding. Obviously it was. But then some other things is like, but then it printed well with the Orca slicer. But maybe the clog cleared out, and that's why we got a good benchy on that. Because maybe there was a problem with the filament. There was a defect, and I don't know. Had a grain of sand or dirt in there. I don't know. Just a weird phenomenon in regards to making the filament. That could be it as well. So, but the interesting thing is that when it did the calibration, when you do that calibration on the left side and then it does the right, on both of them it came out fine. So again, it's just kind of makes you scratch your head and you're like, seriously, really? So we'll see what happens with this. So anyway, that's what we got going on. I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to let all you people go. And yeah, I'll give an update probably tomorrow. Took today off the gym. We had some banking to do, some errands to run. Had to get another bank card, so we've got all that done. Did some shopping. Picked up some ice cream and some donuts, because Friday is donut day, and I get to have donuts. So, and that looks like it's printed out pretty good. So, I just wish the camera was better on this. I wish it was a color camera, which it kind of is, maybe, sort of. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But adhesion's great. Everything else is great. So we're going to run this and continue. But I think we're going to call this done for the video. And eventually I'll get back with you all and let you know how this ended up. But yeah, the joys of 3D printing. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, like Zombie says, boom, see you later. Have a good one, sir. Thank you for the tips and advice. We'll definitely check that out. We'll do the whole 9 yards and going over this thing and give it a shot and see what happens. So thank you, Zombie Hunter, and everybody else who's watching. People who bought me coffee, they're all over here. You can do that. Link in the description box. The best thing that you could do is like the video. Don't buy me coffee, just like the video. That would be the best thing that you can do. You want to send me an email? There it is. I answer every single email, even the crazy ones. And if you're into 3D printing and painting miniatures and all that stuff, you're crazy. So welcome to the family. Yeah, it is what it is. So with that, I'm going to get back to doing this, trying to fix all this stuff up before I print out that other stuff. And that's what it's about, is printing out stuff. So, yeah, just like Zombie says, hope it helps. So, with that said, we will see you on the next video. Peace. Let's get to it. Get printing.